Hello, and welcome to Alcohol Free Radio. I'm your host, Chris Becker, and I'm excited to have you join us. Whether you're new to the amazing and growing alcohol-free community or someone who is already familiar, we hope you enjoy this program. This is where you can hear from some people that we think are making a real difference, whether as brewers or producers of amazing beverages, influencers in the community, authors, storytellers, and I'm sure more. We aim to break it down and bring it all together. Our goal is simple: to build awareness about this great community and help make alcohol-free fun, easy, and tasting great. So here we go. Enjoy. Hey there, this is Chris, and I'm excited for the episode you are about to hear. I am speaking to Marcos Salazar, and we are going to hear his story. I met Marcos a few years ago when I was learning and kind of starting our journey into this space of Better Roads, but he had a lot of amazing background and was really helpful in kind of helping me find my way. So we want to hear from Marcos and what he has been doing, in particular about the creation of the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association and how that's really helped kind of mature our industry. So hope you enjoy. Hey there, this is Chris, and I am going to tell you right off the bat that we started this podcast and I forgot to hit the record button. So I get to hear and talk with Marcos again a little bit. So we're going to try this again. But Marcos is here with me, somebody I met early in the space around 2019, I guess, to find out about what's happening in non-alc and alcohol-free, and was really instrumental in helping me find my way. So I'm excited to hear more from Marcos about his story and what in particular led to the creation of the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association. So without further ado, welcome again, Marcos.
Great to be here, Chris.
So thanks for joining. Want to kind of dive into it. I have a lot of questions, but before we do that, if you could spend a minute telling everyone a little bit about you, your background, some of the things you did that led you to diving into non-alc and alc-free a little bit more, right up to maybe the start of the association.
Great. So right now, I'm currently the CEO of the Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association, or we call it ANBA for short.
Right.
And it was the first trade association for the adult non-alcoholic beverage industry. We launched in 2021 in the US and Canada, and then are about to launch our UK EU chapter. And there needed to be an industry body to build out infrastructure for the growth of the category. And I'll kind of start kind of at a higher level of defining what we mean by adult. So there is already an association, the American Beverage Association, and they support coffee, tea, water, sodas. But we're very much talking about products that are marketed towards adults of legal drinking age. They're 0.5 ABV or below, and they're sophisticated and complex, and they're alternatives to alcohol. And
is there another association for alcohol? Sorry, just for some of the listeners.
There's a number.
There's beverage, but not alc, and then
Yeah, and there's been for decades the Brewers Association, the Distilled Spirit Council of the U.S., and there's tons of associations all over the world. What we decided to do is start building out chapters of ANBA right off the bat, so that we can organize and support the category globally, versus all these random associations popping up and figuring out how we can collaborate. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then
back to the story.
Yeah. And then in terms of how it eventually got started and how I eventually came into this category, it was really a decade plus in the making, where I had another company, Be Social Change, which became a 30,000+ social impact community in New York City, helping people build social impact careers and businesses. And we started out as a meetup, started doing tons of networking events, then eventually panel events, and then eventually professional development workshops. And by 2019, we were hosting about 3 to 5 panel events and networking events a month, and about 8 to 10 professional development workshops. So what we were doing at these panel events that were on corporate social responsibility, sustainability, the future of fashion or the future of education, is we would have 100 to 200 people, and we'd have sponsors, so socially conscious brands, and we were connecting socially conscious consumers with them at these event experiences. And the brands found it super helpful because they found that their exact consumer they were looking to connect with.
Okay.
In 2019, I started reevaluating my own relationship with alcohol. But as I said earlier, I'm the type of person in a party that loves to go and raid the cabinets and refrigerators and make all kinds of cocktails for everybody.
You're that guy.
Yes, I am that guy. And so as I was looking for alternatives to alcohol, there was just the non-alcoholic beverage space was just starting to emerge. There was a lot of non-alcoholic beer that was coming out, but not very few spirits, very few RTDs, and kind of not so much wine. But I did see that there was huge potential of connecting consumers that were looking to drink less alcohol and drink alternatives, as well as these brands. Yeah. So built a business model around that called For All Drinks, similar to Be Social Change. And we were going to have pop-up speakeasies, pop-up dance parties, pop-up karaoke, all non-alcoholic. Yeah. And then COVID hit. Right. So had to quickly pivot, transition, and move to more of a media and a virtual events company. So launched one of the first podcasts on non-alcoholic beverages, the For All Drinks podcast. Did tons of virtual events. We did a dry January festival with 31 days of content and contests and giveaways all around non-alcoholic beverages in 2021. Right. And through all this, I was able to really get to know some of the founders and leaders in the adult non-alcoholic beverage space and started to see the challenges that they were facing, not just connecting with consumers, but business challenges, regulatory challenges, safety challenges. And I saw that there needed to be an industry body and association to really promote, protect, and grow and build infrastructure for the category. So ANBA really emerged where I started connecting with some of these founders and eventually built an 11-person board and started this association in September 2021 and really been growing it since.
That's amazing. And with all of those various beverage makers and entrepreneurs, it sounds like your background in really, community activation and social change and program development to some extent helped you take what was clearly a need and actually turn that into a functioning organization.
Absolutely. So by day, I was always in the nonprofit sector, worked for the American Psychological Association, was a tech strategist for the Girl Scouts. Okay. I pledged to be a sister to all my sisters in a candlelight ceremony and had access to as many Thin Mints and Samoas as I could ever want, which was a great perk. That is along with another nonprofits. And then by night, I was just building businesses. Right. So that nonprofit and entrepreneurial background really helped. But in reality, my community building at Be Social Change was so integral because it's a membership organization, but it's really a membership community. And part of what we need to do and my job is this category is so collaborative, so friendly, so mission driven. Yeah. And part of my job is to make sure that culture, yes, there's competition, but healthy competition, that everybody understands that we have to grow this category together. And it's really a community building function. And it's just an amazing community that we've built. So yeah, all those skills eventually came together to really help grow the association in a pretty quick manner over the past year and a half.
Okay. Yeah. And that's interesting because I think both of us from maybe different vantage points have seen it while it's still very young, but it has continued to evolve and it has been very collaborative and it is a tight community, especially with, some of the folks that are really innovating in the space or have been kind of building over the last couple of years, not just in the US, but in Canada and the UK and elsewhere as well, the Middle East and Australia and others. How, and I know at the beginning, obviously that makes, and we're all here because, and I say this sometimes on the podcast, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the makers, the creators of all of, and the innovators that are creating new and interesting beverages in all the different categories. And I know that's where the association started. And then you kind of open that up to retail organizations online. We're proud to be a member. How did that evolve? How did that evolve from starting out with your 11 kind of founding groups and kind of to where you are today? Kind of take us to the present moment in terms of the evolution and some of the challenges you've had kind of as you've, probably had to make some decisions about your scope and mandate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Well, I think from the beginning, one of the things in thinking about the community, I think on
Yeah.
a larger scale, this is an entire ecosystem. And I really
Right.
think about myself as an ecosystem builder, but it really does have to start with those producers. And
Yeah.
part of what we did last year was a combination of recruit, engage, and see who are all those producers out there? What are the challenges that they're facing? What stage are they at? What size are they at? And that was last year was really building that business and nonprofit foundation and getting an understanding of that. And we started to see that the vast majority of brands are only a couple years old. They're pretty small. A lot of first time entrepreneurs had
Yes.
maybe not necessarily in the food and beverage space.
Yeah.
So that creates challenges, not just from a basic business standpoint, but from a food and safety standpoint, from
Right.
figuring out how to understand the distribution system, how to
Yes.
engage with co-packers and making sure you're creating good contracts with them. There were some of those things that we really had to figure out. And I think what's been really beneficial is some of the brands that have been a little bit further along have really been supportive in growing these smaller brands. It's growing their competition to a certain extent, but it's also recognizing that the more of them that succeed, everybody's going to succeed, and that's that collaborative and collegiate mindset and growth mindset that's been beneficial. But the producers are
Right.
only one part of the equation. Now you have the industry, which is businesses like yourself, from distributors, flavor houses, to
Yes.
lawyers, to
Yeah.
all these different parts of the industry.
Yeah.
So we opened up that membership so that we could all come together in a single tent and really grow the category as a whole together. So that's been what's been really exciting, and we're now really ramping up that part of the membership and really
Okay.
trying to engage not only industry partner members, but
Right.
also other associations that are integral to the industry. So anything from Expo East and West to trade events, to
Yeah.
also the American the restaurant associations, to other types of
Yes.
organizations that engage retail or buyers.
Wanted to spend a minute and tell you a bit about our Better Without mobile app. We talk a bit about it on the show, but it's really a great resource for people that want to learn and find out where they can try and experience all the great beverages that are coming into the space of better for you beverages, particularly non-alc and alcohol-free. This includes beer, wine. You can search by different categories, sparkling, RTDs, find out descriptions, photography, calories, everything you want to know, and best of all, where to buy it based on your location. Or you can search different places and find out all the different restaurants and stores where you can find the different products that you love, or go online, obviously, to betterroads.com, but also other sites that we share links to let you know where you can get different products. So it's really anything that's out there in the space. It gives you one resource to learn and educate and test and try. It allows you to share. So whether you like a location that has some really good beverages that maybe others who are experimenting with drinking less or whatever want to learn about, you can share it right off the app. You can share products right off the app to all your friends and any channel you want. So I really encourage you to check it out. It's betterwithout.app, or if you go to betterroads.com, you'll see in our community a place to learn more about the app and download it. It's free, and give it a try. We hope you like it. Thanks. As you mentioned earlier, there obviously is competition. We're in a commercial industry, but even now, even with the association and even with the growth in the category, I sometimes, even a couple of years ago, I would say, only really 5% of the population even know that some of these products even exist, that there is this choice, that there are these opportunities to try in different categories, some more mature than others, obviously beer compared to, say, wine, for example. But it still seems like we're just at the beginning of a much longer road. Maybe it's 6% now instead of 5%. What's your take on that? And what kind of, I would imagine, being kind of at the center of the association, questions not just from makers and the smaller companies or maybe younger companies that are coming along, whether they're makers themselves or other parts of the industry, but also even just from the public at large. Like, are there certain types of questions or questions you get a lot of, or queries that you find you need to answer?
Yeah. And that's great. So I think a good analogy, and it's not exact, but I think it's still good, is think about where the vegetarian movement to the vegan movement to the plant-based movement to where it came to in the consciousness of consumers. And that took decades. And part of what we want to do is shortcut that process. And there are similar challenges as well. But I think the other thing is that a lot of these brands started coming out in 2019, 2021. So they're relatively new, but it's been a flurry of innovative entrepreneurs that have really created great tasting, high quality products. But that was really, especially with COVID, it was very much direct consumer shipping. I mean, that's the benefit of non-alcoholic beverages. You can have e-commerce. And now now this year, late last year and early this year, and through the rest of the year, there's this shift where now restaurants and bars understand that they need to carry these products because consumers are demanding them, but they're also losing a large amount of money by selling a water or a soda versus a sophisticated non-alcoholic beverage that people are willing to pay a similar amount for. So that's, I think, that first piece. The second piece is that now retailers, especially big retailers, are starting to see that there's an opportunity here. So CVS and Target, Walmart just came out with their non-alcoholic beverage set. And that I think is going to be really huge because in my kind of social impact days, I was on a panel with a woman who for 30 decades did some really amazing sustainability work for governments, for huge organizations. And on the panel, she said this really interesting statement. For all of my 30 years of all the work that I've done, it doesn't compare to one single thing that happened in the sustainability movement, which is Walmart carrying organic produce and organic food. And that shifted the entire supply chain consciousness in the industry. So I think that these larger retailers that start to carry them are going to really help shift the landscape. But again, we're still at those beginning stages. As an association, we're supporting those types of companies. But also, I think there's other industries that we're going to be supporting. Every single event in the world should have a very sophisticated non-alcoholic beverages. So that is conferences, that is any type of corporate event. I got married last year in September.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we had an alcoholic bar and a non-alcoholic bar.
For sure.
That had similar choices. And it was really amazing to see my friends who were pregnant drinking champagne and Negronis and beer. And it just, they were part of the celebration. So I think that we're just at the beginning stages of penetration on all those different occasions and establishments. And over the next couple years, that's really, really going to accelerate.
Yeah. And I think that similar inflection point to say in organic food with Walmart, there's a lot of momentum. So we get a lot of that too with our wholesale business and some of the groups that we're talking to. But that inflection point's still ahead. And but it's coming. You can see with everything that's happening. So that's really exciting. In terms of the scope, I mean, I often list off the non-alcoholic categories, if you like, that are really the cousins of their alcoholic counterparts. Beer, wine, usually rhyme those off. But from the scope of maybe the association or even just how you define the category, where do you draw the line? So I think of traditional non-alc as Coca-Cola and water. Obviously, there's the alcohol category, functionals, euphorics, the growth in, there's beverage, THC infused beverages, just as examples. Where do you see maybe today that you're drawing the line, or is that still something that's very much in flux?
Yeah, this was something as a board and as an association we really had to get clear on and have many discussions on, because there are a lot of different adult beverages that are helping to support the overall growth category, but we really had to be clear on who we represent. So as I mentioned, it's beverages that are marketed towards adults of legal drinking age, 0.5 ABV or below. But we do not represent any type of functional beverages, nor THC or CBD products. And the reason why is that we wanted to be narrow in scope for two reasons. One, and this is interesting with the conversation with Whole Foods, is that if you have a particular set of functional beverages, you
Right.
will probably be put in the health aisle or supplement aisle
Yes.
versus an adult non-alcoholic beverage aisle. And
Yeah.
that's where we really want to get clear on, so
Interesting.
that
Okay.
consumers really understand when I go to an alcohol alternative or adult non-alcoholic beverage aisle, next to the alcoholic beverages, there's an equivalent kind of match to a
Okay.
certain extent, but they're not in the supplement aisle. There's really amazing beverages that I've seen in Kin, for example, that is in the
Yeah.
supplement aisle or supplement, or if you go on
Yeah.
Walmart at this point, it's a supplement.
Yeah.
Even though they're helping to support the overall growth of the category. But
Okay.
we didn't want it. We wanted to make sure that we offered value to particular producers and we don't tackle those regulatory challenges, because that's a whole other set of supplements and all of that is a whole other set of regulatory challenges that we're not focused on. So
No,
that's why we wanted to be pretty clear and specific.
that
Now
makes
the
sense.
question is that do we, but they're an integral part of the overall category. I know you sell them and
Yeah.
others sell them. Do we expand it and open that up,
Yeah.
or do they have their own association? Like we don't represent kombucha either,
Yeah.
because unless there's some form of fermentation that's kind of slightly different, and it's a different, it's not kombucha, it's some other type of tea fermentation,
Yeah.
and that's a little bit case by case. But we really wanted to be clear on defining the category for retailers as
No, that
well as
makes sense.
consumers.
I mean, from a scope, you've got plenty to chew on just with
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening. And, we get obviously lots of samples and talk to lots of makers that go beyond the scope of ANBA, but it's a bit of a wild west. I kind of joke that the supplements industry is as old as the old west. I think of the person who came into town with a donkey and a wagon and opened up the stage and started selling potions and tonics. There's a bit of that out there in terms of some of the products that I see getting brought in, and not to say that they aren't good. And there's a lot of innovation going on in that space with GABA and other things, but it is a bit more woolly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this leads to something really interesting that I'll be working on and the association will be working on in the coming year, is that, yes, it's kind of the Wild West. There's tons of different products. Don't know to what extent the quality of those products are. So there's a trust issue, both on the consumer side, but also an industry side. When I talk with distributors, they ask, how do we figure out who do we want to carry that are just dipping their toes into the space? And one of those is kind of a food and safety piece as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're going to start kind of implementing is educating our members on making sure they have all the food and safety protocols in place to produce the highest quality products that are out there. And then second, we'll probably go through some form of verification that's inhibiting towards the producers, but at least a basic core minimum of food and safety and quality control and quality testing. What that does is that then when we go to buyers or distributors or wholesalers, they know in our directory that these are the highest quality products out there because they have been independently verified, and therefore we should purchase these versus anybody else. That's not to say that a non-member doesn't have high quality products. Just as an association, you can't verify.
Of course.
But that really shortcuts, that solves a pain point for a buyer, which is, we know that these are high quality products. We know that they're committed to the growth of the category. Therefore, we should try these ones out first versus others. And that's one of the things we'll be working on in the coming year.
Okay. And you actually just added a question to one of the ones we need to ask when we're talking to various makers and producers is, are you a member of ANBA? I hadn't thought of that, so I just wrote that down. So that's really helpful in terms of knowing some of the stuff that you're doing as an association. So that's great. I'd love to hear, and you talked a bit about it in terms of, the customer demand that's getting pulled through on-trade or restaurants. And we're seeing a lot of that too. We'll be at the restaurant show this year in Chicago, and we're seeing that kind of evolution. Kind of like you said, the big part of the show at the restaurant show is the plant-based organic section. So it's almost like looking into the future. That's the center of the floor. And then there's the beverage section over here, but the non-alc category is pretty well represented. So you can kind of see that maybe that'll be where we are in 10 years or so. In addition to that, and in addition to some of the growth in the non-alc categorization in the on the shelves in off trade or in grocery. What else are you seeing? Are there certain categories within the non-alc space that you think their time is coming, or some that are kind of going through more maturation and they're going to lead the way in certain areas? Anything you kind of help us look into the future with what you're seeing over the next few years?
Yeah. I think there's a couple things, and we can even go by category. So on the beer side, I think you're going to start seeing, similar to the craft beer revolution, full strength, you're going to start seeing lots of different variations and lots of different styles, which is great, and a lot of different selection, which is really, really cool. I think you're also going to start seeing, and there's some technology out there where the dealcoholization process has gotten into a much higher quality state. You're going to see a lot of breweries run their full strength beers through these non-alcoholic beverage kind of dealcoholization machines, and you're going to output really good non-alcoholic beverages. Now, whether they sell them just locally or they sell them on a e-commerce level, we'll see. But it's going to create a lot more variety on a local level. So I see that on the beer, and beer is going to be the driver. It's typically the less expensive product. It's kind of that gateway. Yeah, exactly. Like just recently, and I think you're going to start seeing it in more places. Like as we speak, Athletic just became the first product to be on JetBlue Airways, which is pretty amazing, because then that provides a very clear option and raises the awareness that this is an option for people. On the wine side, and also would love to kind of hear some of your thoughts as well. That's where I think there's going to be a lot of real innovation. I think that we're starting to see much more complex, full-bodied, non-alcoholic wines that two things: mimic their counterparts, and then also are creating other flavor profiles that you don't typically see. I know one of my favorites is Starla. Starla has a red that has a little bit of a black pepper and lavender finish that I absolutely love. And then you have high quality champagnes like Naughty and other brands like Joyous and others that are just producing really good high quality wines, and you're going to start seeing that continue. On the spirit side, there's two things. I think I'm starting to see higher and higher quality spirits, which is great, that are direct alcohol alternatives that are really mimicking that flavor and the burn and the complexity. And then you're having other products that are kind of designer spirits, that I would call them, which are distilled spirits, but aren't in the alcohol alternative, but completely something out on their own. I always talk about my first experience with Wilderton, that has a couple really great products there. They're earthen, and then I forgot what the other one is. There's a kind of summery flavor one. But when I first drank the earthen, which is made with Douglas fir and I believe either cardamom or bergamot, but when I drank it, and I just drank it with soda, club soda and Wilderton, I was transported to the Pacific Northwest. I felt like I was walking in Oregon or Washington. And it was just that's all it was. And it really blew me away that there's these new flavor profiles that are redefining the concept of an adult spirit or cocktail. And I'll say what's cool about that is that more and more research that people probably know is Gen Z is drinking less. But Nielsen IQ gave us a webinar for our members, and over 40% of Gen Zers of legal drinking age have never consumed an alcoholic beverage, not just period. So their idea of an alternative to alcohol doesn't register because they've never had alcohol. So I think there's this really unique opportunity for redefining the definition of an adult beverage that doesn't have to tie itself to the past, which is cool.
Which is, I think, is, and it speaks to the growth and the normalization of the organic and vegetarian movement, as well as it's speaking to a redefinition of adult beverages, but it's also a redefinition of what it is to be an adult. We have a mobile bar that we use for certain marketing events. It's kind of a pet project of mine, an Italian truck, and it's taken care of with this person in Stratford, Connecticut, that does high-end sports cars, like super high-end sports cars. Like there's only 10 of them in the world. So he's taken a liking to this project that we've got together. And a guy from Diageo was there, and we talked about what we were doing, and he does branding for Diageo products. And he was kind of talking down about the non-alc space. But then in the second breath, we were all sitting around with the mechanics and him. We started talking about Gen Z and millennials, and they were like, they all had kids in their 20s. And without a exception, there was like 5 kids in their 20s they were talking about, including this guy. None of them drank and none of them had a driver's license. And we were, so in one breath, we were kind of talking about, well, you know, non-alc. And then the other breath is like, well, everyone in their 20s doesn't, that were their children don't drink and just don't want to drink. It's not like, oh, I don't, because they just don't have that need. And they were the 2 things that in my teenage years, I wanted more than anything. I wanted to drink and I wanted to have a driver's license. And these kids now don't have either. So it's an entire change in the mindset of our youth around what it is even to be an adult. And if you are looking to sell beverages in the United States, you need to be thinking about that. Maybe not, because those 20-year-olds in 5 years are going to be 25-year-olds, and in 10 years they're going to be 30-year-olds.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I like that redefinition of what an adult and a mature adult is. Like if you're mature, you can go out and you can party and you can get drunk, and that's like a definite, or you're drinking a wine, and wine is sophisticated, and there's kind of all those elements. But if an adult perception of adult is someone who focuses on their mental health, on their well-being, on being healthy, on being present and mindful, an alcoholic beverage doesn't fit with that. And that I think is you're absolutely right. And I think that's going to be coming much faster. And I think to a previous question, there's all these confluences of forces that are coming together to helping really grow the category that I think it's going to be faster than vegetarian to vegan to plant-based, is that there's this drive on a generational side, on a consumer side, on a research side of the harms of alcohol, and how it impacts us on a mental, physical level. And then also these amazing options that I think will help propel the category moving forward.
No, that's amazing. Marcos, thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your work on the association and kind of being the voice for the category as it grows, working with obviously the makers, which, as I said before, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them, and the rest of the industry as it grows. And also, I'm sure more and more the legislative bodies that are out there, the alcohol space in the United States compared to other countries is Byzantine, to say the least. So helping us navigate that. So thanks for your time. Thanks for everything you're doing. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. And thank you for the work that you're doing. Like, what Better Oats is doing is such an integral part to the growth of the category. It's the producers are a key pillar, but also those that are raising awareness and providing a lot of different options in a central place where consumers can find and try a variety of products. So you all are also a pillar in the growth of this category. So thanks so much for all the work you all are doing.
Thank you. And we'll look forward to talking again soon. Take care, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Alcohol Free Radio. We welcome any suggestions or ideas for this podcast and other content that we share with the Better Oats community. So please reach out to us on social media, on our site at betteroats.com, or via email at hello@betteroats.com. And it's been great to be with you here all together. Take care.